It's one of those stories that sounds like an urban legend or the plot of a really weird disaster movie. But it's a true historical fact, simultaneously tragic and so absurd that it's hard to believe. Ready? Let's go back to Boston, January 15th, 1919. Scene: calm before the storm. Imagine Boston's North End. It's a bustling working-class neighborhood full of Italian immigrants, dock workers, and their families. It's January. It's usually freezing at this time of year, but on this particular day, nature played a cruel joke. The temperature suddenly jumped from below zero to 5 degrees Celsius. It felt spring-like. In the center of this neighborhood loomed a monster, a huge steel tank as tall as a 5-story building, about 15 meters, and almost 30 meters in diameter. It belonged to the Purity Distilling Company and was filled to the brim with molasses. What was molasses in 1919? It wasn't just sweet pancake syrup. It was a strategic raw material, a viscous, heavy substance fermented to produce industrial alcohol. And alcohol at that time wasn't just alcohol. It was also a key component in munitions production. World War I was underway, and the looming prohibition. That day, nearly 9 million liters of this sticky sludge sloshed around in the reservoir. Ticking bomb. This reservoir was a disaster waiting to happen. It had been built in a hurry, skimping on materials. The walls were too thin to withstand such colossal pressure. Local residents knew something was wrong. The reservoir constantly groaned and cracked, and molasses oozed from the seam so heavily that children from nearby houses came with chopsticks to collect the free treat. What did the company do? Instead of repairing the tank, they painted it brown to make the molasses leaks less noticeable. Brilliant, right? And then, January 15th. A sudden warming. Physics had done its job. The molasses inside began to expand, and the pressure on the already flimsy walls reached a critical point. Noon. Explosion. Tsunami. At about 12:30 p.m., the area was rocked by a sound that witnesses described as a cannon shot or a machine gun burst. It was the rivets holding the steel sheets in place bursting. The tank literally exploded. Huge chunks of steel flew like shrapnel, and then a monster burst forth. A wall of molasses 8 to 15 meters high. Imagine a wave taller than a lamppost. But the scariest thing isn't the height, but physics. Molasses is approximately 1.5 times heavier than water and much more viscous. This black, sticky mass wasn't just flowing. It was rushing through Boston's narrow streets at about 60 kilometers per hour. It wasn't a flood. It was a sledgehammer blow. The wave tore buildings off their foundations, crushing them like cardboard boxes. It picked up a freight wagon and its horses and hurled it against a wall. It struck the elevated railway supports, and a section of the overpass collapsed, nearly taking a passing train with it. A sticky nightmare. When the wave receded, the streets were covered in a meter-deep layer of molasses. And that's when the real hell began. If you fall in water, you can swim. If you fall in molasses, you're stuck like a fly in amber. The more people struggled to get out, the deeper they were sucked in. The sludge clogged people's noses and mouths, and they choked on the sweet syrup. Rescuers arrived quickly, but there was nothing they could do. They were stuck in the molasses themselves. Firefighters tried to wash it away with water from their fire hoses, but the cold January water only made the molasses harder and stickier. Horses caught in the torrent died horribly. They simply couldn't move. Results and legacy: 21 people died that day. About 150 were seriously injured. Boston spent months cleaning up. They say the water in Boston Harbor remained brown until summer. Rescuers, doctors, police officers, everyone carried the sticky mud across the city on their boots. Streetcars, theaters, homes, everything became sticky. Why is this disaster forgotten? Perhaps because it sounds too absurd. Death by syrup? Seriously? But for Boston, it was a turning point. One of the longest and most complex legal battles in U.S. history followed. The company tried to blame it on sabotage and anarchists, a popular topic at the time. But the court, after examining the tank's debris, ruled that the cause was criminal negligence and cost-cutting during construction. This was the first time a major corporation was forced to pay huge sums for negligent care of public safety. And for decades, longtime Bostonians swore that on hot summer days in the North End, a faint, cloying smell of molasses could still be detected from the asphalt and old brick walls.